Hi everyone, welcome to Reviewia Talks. So today we are going to talk about a few things which can help people succeed while working for a startup. Now, in the recent past, there's a lot of excitement amongst the professional talent pool to join these growing startups. It seems very exciting. It seems like it is completely different as an experience, and people will end up having fast track growth, will make lots of money, so on and so forth. However, a large part of professionals who move from large organizations, established organizations, into a startup are unable to make that transition successful. Okay, so here I'm going to talk about a few hacks, a few things that you can use to ensure that you are effective equally, if not more, once you start working for a startup. So, the first thing is no matter what role you are hired for in a startup, you need to be hands on with your skill. You might be making a lot of money, you might be very, very senior, you might be directly working with the founders, you might be part of the C suite of the startup. However, you need to be someone who is very comfortable to roll up his or her sleeve and getting into the thick of things. Okay? There is no space for pure strategists in startups. Okay? So if you're somebody who's very good at drawing PowerPoint presentations, very good at thinking, and in the past you had a team in your earlier large established organizations who has basically owned the execution of those strategies, you are going to fail with that approach in a startup environment. So you need to be equally comfortable in executing your strategies on your own, taking responsibility of not only formulating the strategies but also ensuring that you are the one who's driving the execution in most cases. And what comes in the way of this transition is a lot of mind block. Essentially, people have worked in corporates for 5 years, 10 years, 3 years, and in corporates, large organizations, your role is extremely predictable. It is very well drawn out, and you're very clear. Okay, these are the five things that I am responsible for, and there is very rarely a sixth thing which comes and falls on your lap. However, when you move to a startup, every week you might have a new task which gets added to your job description. Now, a lot of people get overwhelmed by that. But if you don't get overwhelmed by that and just see what is the need of the hour, chances are that you just need to apply some common sense to get those tasks done. But I have seen and have interacted with a lot of these professionals who get stuck with this point that, oh, you know what, I have never done this in the past. So don't get stuck with that. Okay. You might not have done it in the past. And trust me, your founders also wouldn't have done it in their past, 9 times out of 10, unless they are serial entrepreneurs. They would also be trying things out for the first time. So just use your common sense. Do it to the best of your ability using your common sense, and don't get stopped by this conversation that, oh, I don't have experience of doing this. It's okay. All right. And in most cases, you would see that it checks out. In some cases, you might fail as well, but that failure itself would also add a lot of value and learning. So that's another thing. Linked to that is this degree of ambiguity that people encounter when they work for startups. As I said, every second week you might have a change in strategy, you might have some new iterations, you might be running a new A/B testing to see how your prospective consumers are responding to your mobile application if you're working for a tech company. And always, every second, third, fourth week there will be some new stuff happening. All right. And a lot of people who come from corporate background are not comfortable with so much of ambiguity. So you got to drop those that resistance, that affinity for predictability. Okay. So once you drop that and you're open to things being a little uncertain, okay, because see, a startup is a startup because it is still not established, right? It has not become a proven model. A lot of startups wouldn't have even reached their product market fit when you are part of that organization, which means that they are still iterating, and that will be part of their journey. And to be successful in that journey, they need to do that. And for you to be a successful part of that journey, you need to be open to such ambiguity and uncertainty coming your way. The other thing is your motivation for joining a startup. A lot of people hate their corporate jobs and they think it is so cool if I work for a startup. Let me tell you, you don't become cool by hating your corporate job. That is not a sufficient motivation either to start your own venture or to work for an early stage company, because very soon you will realize that you will run out of motivation. Okay. So look for more compelling reasons why you would want to make that transition in terms of working for an early stage organization. What you can do effectively is, once you have made that decision and you've committed for that transition, how you can add value to these startups is, most of them don't have structures. Okay. But being in large corporates, you would have been exposed to the reliable structures. Okay. And some of the structures are needed to make things more predictable, more reliable, more consistent. So you can bring in those best practices that you've seen in your earlier experience. Okay. And that will add a lot of value to your stint with these early stage companies. You can do away with the bureaucracy that you might have seen in large organizations. Large organizations tend to become a little slow in their decision making and execution because of multiple levels of approvals and multiple reviews, etc. So while you should cut that out, but some level of structure and best practices can make a world of difference in terms of how these startups can function effectively. The last thing is, we see a lot of good talent, moving out of startups. They are doing their job well, however, they just can't align to the culture. Some startups are growing at a very fast pace. They might not have a very healthy work-life balance. And if that doesn't align to the way you work, you should set very clear expectations right up front. Okay, I personally, anyways, feel that you can't have a sustainable career and a balanced one if you're working for 14, 15 hours a day for a very long period of time. Sometimes, if it's a project, if it's a rollout, you are doing long hours for 2, 3 months, that's understandable. However, if the expectation of your founders and the core team is that no, this is the way it is going to be because we are a startup, and if it doesn't align to the way you want to operate, then you should make those expectations very, very clear right up front. And either you seek alignment to the fact that you will work differently, or you very amicably part ways once you discover that there is no alignment. If you can do these things, I'm sure that your stint in a startup would be very rewarding, very successful, and mutually beneficial for the organization and you as a professional. I hope these tips are going to be useful to you. Thanks for listening in. Bye bye.